What? Kom op, kom op, kom op. Wow!
Oh, dit is wel cool.
Tangela.
Hello everyone, it is Appraise and welcome back to another episode of Pokemon Go. And this video is going to be all about the brand new appraisal system being added to the game. It's actually really great because it helps saving me a whole lot of time. And in this video I'm going to kind of go over how I personally use it and how you can use it yourself. So before we actually get into all of that stuff, there's actually something very important that I need to talk to you guys about, because I've been kind of avoiding this subject because I think I'm bad at explaining how it actually works, and that is the subject of IVs. IV standing for individual values. Now, within Pokemon Go, you actually got each different Pokemon which has 3 different stats which are hidden. You cannot see them. Well, basically these 3 hidden stats determine how much CP a Pokemon is going to be getting upon a level up. So that kind of explains why one Vaporeon will be having more CP than the other Vaporeon. And that is just a brief explanation about how IV is and how it works. Now, there's another video that I'm gonna direct you guys to, or a guide if you just want to read it on text or in your own time or whatever, which I encourage you guys to take a look at first. And the reason for that is it's gonna be pretty hard to understand my standing point when it comes down to IVs for the remainder of this video and potentially for the future of this channel and videos that I'm gonna be making. So there's a video of trainer tips in which he explains perfectly in an 8-minute video what IVs are. Highly encourage you guys to watch that video and then come back to this video so that way I can explain to you guys how the appraisal system will work hand in hand with IVs in Pokemon Go. So let's actually get into all of the new stuff when it comes down to the appraisal system, because appraisal system is really great and actually is going to be different for each team, of course. We got Team Mystic, which is Blanche, we got Team Valor, which is Candela or Candela, and then of course we got Spark from Team Instinct, which are the 3 team leaders. And based on every single dialogue screen, they're gonna all say something different. So what I'm gonna show you guys first is Team Mystic. The overall Pokemon analysis. This is the IV range of the Pokemon. So if she's saying it's a breathtaking Pokemon, the IV is above 82%, which is great. On top of that, also very important, the Pokemon stats analysis. And that means you can actually determine whether or not the Pokemon has perfect IVs in one category or not. So that's gonna help you filter out. So in this case, the stats exceeded my calculations. It's incredible. Means somewhere down the line it's gonna have a perfect IV stats. So that's how you can kind of figure out how that works. Also very important to know is if your attack and defense or stamina are the same, she's gonna tell you that as well, but then of the best stats on your Pokemon when you appraise the Pokemon. For Team Valor, of course, these are the things that she says. So Candela's gonna say like, hey, this Pokemon amazes me, it can accomplish anything. That's the best Pokemon, of course. Personally, I'm always looking for Pokemon above an IV of 90% or more. And I'm gonna get into that a little bit more. There's a little exception on the rule for specific Pokemon, which I'll talk about as well. But we'll get into that very shortly. She's also saying like, for a perfect IV, I'm blown away by its stats. Wow. So she has a different type of attitude towards everything. Everything is going to be in the screen. And of course Spark from Team Instinct, he's gonna say like, your Pokemon name looks like it can really battle with the best of them. That is his way of saying, hey, the IV is great. And of course for the Pokemon stats analysis, its stats are the best I've ever seen, no doubt about it. And that's gonna be a perfect IV stat. So that's what you need to know, and that's how you can determine how that works. Once again, this will all be linked in the video description down below. Just memorize what is important to you. For me, that's going to be the following. I'm actually going to show you guys a perfect Pokemon with 100% IV, and that's going to be my Venusaur. So, before we move on here, if you're new to IVs, 100% IV on the Pokemon is incredibly rare. Like, that is so rare, and you're very lucky if you do end up getting it on the right Pokemon. I got a Dragonair. Actually, let's go to the Dragonair. This Dragonair is incredible. If it turns into a Dragonite, it has the potential of becoming a Dragonite with 3500 CP, which is crazy. The only thing that I'm worried about is that the attacks might not be as great as I hope them to be. But let's actually do a little appraisal here with this Dragonair and give you guys a little rundown of how this works. So, Overall, breathtaking Pokemon. This is what I want to see. If I see anything else besides this little text right here, I will just transfer that Pokemon, unless of course it's a different type Pokemon, which I'll get into once again a little bit later. I see that his best attribute is his HP, so she will always call out the best attribute, in this case matched equally by attack, and then matched equally by defense, so those are the highest 3 stats. And then she's saying, stats exceeded my calculations, it's incredible, meaning it has a perfect IV stat somewhere, and considering that it's 3 stats together, it means that this is a perfect Dragonair. So yeah, there we go. That is the analysis, and that's something you gotta, get used to, I guess. So how does this whole appraisal system help me personally? Basically, I can filter out a whole lot just from the information that I'm getting throughout the appraisal system. First and foremost, it is inside of the game. With a single press of a button, I will be able to appraise and analyze the Pokemon to see how great the Pokemon is. So in this case, the Rattata is above average, but it's not breathtaking. So what I do is, I just skip everything, and I just go ahead and transfer this Pokemon. I do this with the Pokemons I am not interested in immediately, but the Pokemons I'm interested in, like let's say an Eevee, or let's say an Hypno over here. If this Pokemon were to be something else, like if Hypno were to not be breathtaking, I would just, I would just transfer this one immediately, because it's obviously not interesting to me. So that's kind of how I go around doing that. Now Lapras, or Snorlax, or Dragonite are kind of a different story, because those are pretty high tier Pokemon. They're incredible Pokemon, and to me I have different rules when it comes down to these Pokemon. These Pokemon are not common in any way, shape or form, so I'm a little bit more loose when it comes down to stuff like this. So to elaborate on this, I think that moveset on these type of Pokemon is the most important thing here. After that comes the IV, but IV goes hand in hand with the amount of candy and Stardust I would need to upgrade the Pokemon, and also the kind of potential that the Pokemon actually has, so kind of a mixed situation here. After all, these Pokemon in the end are extremely rare, especially Lapras and Snorlax, so you cannot really afford to be too picky with them, because you just don't have the candy to do that. So the amount of CP that they have upon obtaining them plays a much more significant role than it normally would. And for these type of Pokemon, I will always end up checking the IV through an IV calculator. So in this particular case, what we got over here, first we're gonna actually, go over the Lapras and appraise the Pokemon like we usually do. So in this case, she's saying like, this Lapras is not most likely not going to make much headway in battle. Best attribute is attack, and she's saying it exceeded my calculations. So that means that this Lapras has an attack of 15. The IV is 15 because she said like, hey, it exceeded my calculations. That means it will always have an IV of 15 on that particular category. So in this case, it has an attack stat of 15, which is great to know, because if we actually go ahead and go to the calculator, I'm actually going to take a look at this Lapras right here. So Lapras right here, I'm gonna insert the information right here. I have no idea what the HPR is. It is 180 with 4,000. 180 with 4,000 Stardust needed to, and actually power this one up. So I'm gonna be honest here. Let's go ahead and calculate this. So what you guys can see over here is that the maximum is going to be 86% and the minimum is going to be 84%. But considering the fact that we know that our attack stat is the maximum, you can eliminate almost everything with the exception of the second option and the final option down below. But we also know that this Pokemon is probably not going to make much of a headway during battle. So in this particular case, the Pokemon is less than 50% IV. Hey, there's only one answer there, and that is the bottom one. That is the Lapras that I got. Before, in the past, what you needed to do is you had to power up the Pokemon, just like this. You had to power up the Pokemon, get these statistics from the Pokemon you had back then, and then you had to fill in the information of the Pokemon, and then you had to refine to get a better answer to filter things out. But with this whole new system of appraisal, that eliminates that entire process. So first of all, it's going to save you time. Second of all, it's going to save you a whole bunch of Stardust to just power up if you know exactly what every single thing means, whatever your team leader is going to be saying for in Pokemon Go. So that's how I go around using the new appraisal system. Now, what kind of Pokemon do I take into consideration? This Lapras is 84% IV, or 48% IV. But the attack stat is maxed out, and take a look at this. It has Ice Shard and Blizzard, and it has a whole bunch of health. For this Pokemon, I will make an exception, because this Pokemon is just a beast on its own. And it doesn't really matter, if the IVs are that great. As long as the moveset is great, I'm willing to use this Pokemon. goes for Snorlax and goes for Dragonite as well. And kind of explains why for Vaporeons I have 90% and above, and I actually kind of have to transfer this Vaporeon because it's 80%. But considering that I actually did end up investing in this one, I'm keeping this one. But for any future Vaporeons, I'm not doing it. So for instance, over here, we actually caught this 100% Eevee, turned it into a Vaporeon, just so happens to have a Hydro Pump attack, and we caught this one yesterday. So I was really lucky with this, so I actually ended up investing a whole lot of Stardust, and it kind of explains why I got no more Stardust left. But I basically go around my way doing it this way. So this one, Save the Cat, is just a Snorlax, it's just a regular Snorlax, like 60% IV, but it's 2400. It's a beast, regardless, and it does a decent attack. I mean, it has Zen Headbutt and Earthquake, so this one's gonna do really well in gyms. Something that I know. This Dragonite, you know, this Dragonite's not the best in the world. It's 64% IV, but it is 3000 CP. I'm not gonna transfer that. I'll be insane. The health is about decent, but it has some really good moves if you want to defend it inside of a gym. I think that Steel Wing and Dragon Claw is the best moveset for a Dragonite whenever you want to defend the gym. There's a couple of things that you really need to take into consideration. Here's what I take into consideration myself to wrap up this video. 1. Is the Pokemon 90% IV or more? The answer is no, I'll transfer it. If it's a special Pokemon, I'll make an exception. Then I take a look at the IVs. Then I take a look what use I can get out of the Pokemon. Like, is it a rare Pokemon? Is it a 100%? Like, 100% to me is like a trophy, so I'm keeping all 100%. I currently got 6 of them, so there's that. What moveset does it have, and this is gonna be useful in gyms? Those are kind of the thresholds, and also, do I want to invest in the Pokemon? There's actually another exception that I kind of want to showcase to you guys, and that is my good friend over here, Golem. This Golem, you know, it's 88%. I had trouble getting a better Geodude. But this Golem is insane. It comes with Mudshot and Stone Edge. This Pokemon destroys. And the difference between 88% and 100% is not that great. Like, it's... If you have a... Like, to give you guys a little example here. If you got a Pokemon with 80% IV and the best moveset, and you got a perfect IV Pokemon with the worst moveset, you probably would want the Pokemon with the best moveset. And that's just to explain how that works. So it all's, you know, open to interpretation. It all comes down to who you are as a person and how you play Pokemon Go. Now, after this story, of course, there's different types of Pokemon players. You got the players who are really in it for the stats. And I think I fall under that category. I think it's very important to me to have ICP Pokemon and to not invest inside of a Pokemon that, you know, I'm not gonna be regretting that I invested inside of it, because I have very limited Pokemon that I can actually invest in to make those Pokemon good. The second category of people just doesn't really care. Like, they just play the game. And for those people, I recommend you look at movesets of Pokemon. You know, movesets of Pokemon are so much more important, but I still recommend you guys at least filter out or at least transfer everything that is, you know, has certainly caught my attention under 66%. Like, otherwise, there's not gonna be much value on that Pokemon, even if you, don't invest in it. And then the third category of Pokemon just play the game for fun and will most likely just go for CP, what is high at that moment. And you're probably not ever going to be looking at IVs because you're just playing casually. And that is completely fine, because everybody plays the game in their own way. I just so happen to be the geek that looks up IVs. I know for a fact that ever since I got to know what IVs are, my whole perspective on, you know, powering up a Pokemon has really changed. And I don't know if I actually think it's less fun, to be honest, to check IVs. But because I started with it, I actually kind of have to right now. So yeah, that's my whole perspective on the whole thing. In the back of my mind, if I don't check IVs, I'm always going to be wondering, do I waste Stardust on this Pokemon? Could I end up, you know, spending more Stardust on another Pokemon that would be better potentially and getting more CP? In the end of the day, right now I got 6 Pokemon with perfect IVs. And I kind of want to give you guys a little tour of which Pokemons they are. And you can go ahead and give your opinions and stuff in the comment section down below. I think at this point I got about 20 to 25 Pokemon with an IV of 90% or above. So yeah, there you have it. I've been catching over 11,000 Pokemon at this point. Gonna actually showcase it to you guys. So don't get intimidated by this. Don't get intimidated. I have found a lot of Pokemon. And I've been lucky as well. So yeah. Not until you find 11,000 Pokemon, you cannot compare yourself to my statistics right now. Anyway, let's actually get into this. We got 100% Vaporeon. We caught this one yesterday. Just happens to have Hydro Pump. The best Vaporeon in the game, period. Like, you cannot find a better Vaporeon in the game. Right now at least. They might switch it in the future. Flareon, another 100%. Fire Blast, best moveset. I could not be happier with these two. Then we got a Venusaur right here. Also 100%, not the best moveset. But still, I'm very happy with this one. This was actually, I think, the first 100% Pokemon that I got. And I actually did invest in it, it's just that I'm kind of short on candy right now. That is also very important. You know, candy is so very important. Hypno. I actually evolved a Drowsy into this Hypno and I didn't power it up. I just, you know, kept it the way it is because the moveset is not great. Z-Hatbut is nice, but Shadow Ball is not really that great. So, I'm just going to keep this one as a trophy because it is 100% in the end of the day. Moving on to the next one. This is probably my crown jewel. I found a Dratini and I had to power it up 5 times to figure it out whether it was 82%, 82% or 100%. Those were the only 2 options. Was it 82% or 100%? After powering up for 5 times, it came out to be 100%. You can ask my friends that I play Pokemon Go with. I literally yelled I was just so happy. I was just so happy. I'm gonna be evolving this one today. I need 1 more candy. And yeah, we're gonna be doing something crazy for this one. So be sure to stay tuned for this one. This is gonna be really cool. I'm curious to find out what kind of an attack set it's going to be having. I'll talk obviously a little bit more about this later. But this is going to be the best Dragonite inside of the game. But possibly the worst moveset. But we'll talk about that later. Last but not least, we got this Gloister. Actually a funny story. So I had a Shelter, which was the perfect IV. And then I literally had 50 candy at that point. And I evolved it into this Gloister. And it turned out from 400 something to 1173. And I was like, hey, this is probably not a bad Pokemon. Let's kind of figure out how much IV it has. Immediately 100%. And the people around me already transferred it. And they were like, dang, why did I do that? But yeah, it is not the best moveset. And once again, I'm keeping this one as a crown jewel. Having a 100% IV Pokemon is insanely rare. Like, if you get one, you're incredibly lucky. But don't look at Pidgeys and Weedles and Pokemon that are not that significant. I just happened to look at this Shelter or Gloister. And I just happened to figure out this is a 100% IV one. There's one thing that I want to get off my chest because I've just been rewatching the footage. And this is very important actually. You know, IVs are great. And they give you a great, you know, understanding of how great the potential of a Pokemon is. But it isn't everything. So don't get too invested in IVs. It's just a nice threshold to have. For me personally, I set the bar really high because of my previously found Pokemon. So I'm not saving up a whole lot of Pokemon as a result of that. You don't have to do that. Like, if you got a Pokemon with 80% IV, then that will be a great Pokemon as well. Especially if it has the best moveset. So that's just food for thought here. Anyway, that's going to be wrapping up my perspective on IVs, my perspective on which Pokemons I keep, and my goals on Pokemon Go when it comes down to getting Pokemon and powering those up. I'm currently level 35, I'm a proud legitimate player, and yeah, my next goal is, I guess, to get to level 40 before the end of November, but yeah.
Whoa, Lapras! Oh my god. Oh, 2100! No way! Oh my god! Oh, wow, let's go. Oh. Oh, what's it doing? Okay guys, we just found a Lapras. It's totally insane. On the lure spawn, cannot believe it. It's also the highest Pokemon I got. Whoa. We just got it in one throw. Or two, I don't know. Ice Shard and Blizzard, what? You've got to be kidding me. Overall, not very likely to head away, but oh man. But you know what, I'm gonna keep this. This is 2100. It's cool. It has Blizzard and Ice Shard. Those are really great moves. Wow, this is insane. Great way to shut down the night.